Well, we're entering the summer doldrums of the NBA season, but Kylen Mills and I are still going to have a lot of great content for you. There's actually some new news about KD. I'm only going to touch on it for a second. I can read the room. You folks want to move on. I get it. But actually, Kylen, you tweeted something really interesting about where Stephen Curry ranks among the pantheon of all-time greats. We can touch on that,
Yeah.
talk about the youngsters. And I got some new news, or at least some ideas, some topics to talk about regarding the future of the Warriors a year from now. Because that's really, I think, what a lot of these moves are boiling down to. We're going to break it all down next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and YouTube, of course. You can follow KRON 4 sports anchor, reporter, journalist, producer, multimedia specialist, host. Right? Did I get all of them? There's one more.
That pretty much sums it
Kylen
up.
Mills, at Kylen Mills on Twitter. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, at Dog Surf Road Show. But let's touch on what you tweeted this morning, Kylen. It's interesting. Tell us what you were watching on TV and what led to what we could potentially debate here.
Okay, so you don't want to touch on the KD stuff first. Cyrus, are
Later,
you feeling
yeah, I'm
okay?
starting to.
Are you feeling all right?
I just don't want to annoy people anymore. I get it. It's a tired subject. Should I just touch on it real quick and we move on?
I think let's touch on it and get it out of the way. Like, we
All
don't
right.
have to get too much into it, but I mean, that still is like the overarching, like, largest story in the off season, unfortunately. So, like, I feel like we've got to get any update out of the way off the top, but people, we will let it go and move on shortly thereafter. But I mean,
All right.
it is still what is holding up like the entire free agency across the
Yes.
NBA, and like the biggest story people are following. So, like, if people are sick of it, like, guess what? Like, call the Nets. Like, what, there's only so much we can do besides bring you the latest.
Well, Sean Marks is officially annoying me now. I mean,
Yeah,
I think he's annoying everyone for the reasons you just mentioned. He's holding up the entire offseason. He annoys me because I've never really understood the hype about him. I had Adam Armbrecht. He hosts Locked On Nets last week on this show just to talk about what the Nets really want, what they're looking for. And, he highlighted that Sean Marks, when he first took over the job, turned over a downtrodden organization into a playoff contender. But then I don't know. That's all he's done. I've never seen anything since. I think he gave up way too much for James Harden, which blew up in his face. I think he gave up too much for Kyrie Irving. That's blown up in his face. He's let go of a lot of talent like Spencer Dinwiddie. I never understood just letting him go for nothing. And now he thinks that Kevin Durant is worth, for the vault in Fort Knox when Kevin Durant is pushing 34. No up-and-coming team wants him, so you're not going to get like lucrative first-round picks for him. And the reality is, for his contract, for his age, for the diva attitude, which he does have, he's not going to get a deal. He's not like the fact that he went to the Timberwolves and asked for Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns and 4 first-round picks, which is that's just ridiculous. So the man is delusional. He to me kind of fits the dork Elvis school of overrated. I think I'm smarter than everyone else. GMs, when it's just not true. The track record to me, I'm a believer in judging based on actions. His actions have shown me you don't impress me that much. And now he's held up the entire NBA because he wants way more than he's going to get for Kevin Durant. And the Warriors, meanwhile, are just being incredibly brilliant, just sitting tight. There is a journalist out there named Jake Fisher. Have you ever heard of him, by the way?
I wasn't real familiar with his work. He works for and writes for Bleacher Report, big outlet, and I read a ton of their articles. I just don't know that I specifically have followed him before this, so I can't really speak to his credibility or any of his connections. But Bleacher Report is a very legitimate outlet, so that report was interesting. If you want to share what it was.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll share the screen so people can, who are watching on YouTube, can read this, and for people listening on the podcast, I will read verbatim what Jake Fisher wrote because it is a new story pertaining to Durant going to the Warriors. I'm going to read it verbatim. Here we go. Quote, and while Poole has been rumored as a potential piece of the Warriors trade package to land Durant, there has been little traction between Golden State and Brooklyn on such a blockbuster transaction, sources said, despite the apparent openness, both from Warriors veterans and Durant himself, regarding a superstar reunion in the Bay. Golden State has not been categorized as a team that's made serious overtures to pry Durant from Barclays Center, unquote. So what this basically means is that the Warriors are not offering enough. Good for them. Good for them. Sean Marks, you're not going to get anything for Durant. I'm sorry. If the Warriors come to you with Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, and 2 firsts, you better give up Durant and Seth, because that is by far the best deal you're going to get out there. And just one more time, just to remind people, I'm not advocating for that either. But I do know Joe Lacob really wants him. I don't think they would have reached out initially if they weren't legitimately interested. There have been conversations made between the two teams. And the one aspect of this that alarms me and why I'm not super opposed to the trade, and Kylan, I love your thoughts on this, is the fact that the Warriors, Lacob said this publicly, will not be giving 2 additional max contracts to their payroll. And that's realistically what you're going to have to do next year, because Andrew Wiggins is an unrestricted free agent and he wants that max deal. I don't know if anyone else is going to offer that, but that's what he wants. And then Jordan Poole is going to want a max deal. He's going to be a restricted free agent after this year. And so if another team offers that to him, the only way you keep Poole at that point is by matching the deal. Your thoughts, Kylan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very telling that Lacob said that. I also do find this report to be believable. Like I said, well, I can't speak to Fisher's specific knowledge of the situation. I do find it believable because the Warriors know that they are in a good spot with what they have. There was no reason to throw the kitchen sink at the Brooklyn Nets. And I think there's a very good possibility, based on reports of what the Brooklyn Nets were asking of other teams, that they're probably going all out and maybe asking, like you said, too much. So it wouldn't shock me if there's a mutual interest from both teams, both parties. We've heard some of the Warrior stars would be okay with it. We've heard reports that Kevin Durant would be okay with it or interested in coming back to the Warriors. But that it wouldn't shock me if the talks hadn't gone too far, just because my main concern, which I brought up on the pod last week, is what is it going to align with the Warriors are willing to give up, and just a crazy ask that it seems like the Nets are making crazy big asks for a player who, like you said, while he's fantastic right now, has just a couple of years left in his prime and who's aging. So I do find it to be believable that potentially that could be stalling any type of progress in Golden State and the Nets really seriously talking about making this trade happen. But, we'll just have to see. I don't think that the Warriors are willing to give up their entire youth and future for Kevin Durant.
I agree with you. I was talking to our good friend Larry Kruger a couple nights ago, and he brought up a really interesting point, because a lot of the pushback on the Durant trade rumors, and congratulations, folks, you just got a whole segment of Kevin Durant, and I'm sorry for that. It is interesting. You're right. It is tantalizing stuff.
We're good.
Even if Dub Nation is just so sick and tired of hearing about it, it is. I mean, first of all, what else do you want to talk about? There isn't much else, but it's still a strong possibility. But Kruger mentioned that for all the people out there that are pushing back, saying that the Nets probably just want to hold on to him and that they just want to wait this out and then run it back next year with the team they have. Kruger said, and I'm curious to know if you agree with this or not, that when superstars make trade demands, and Shams Charania about a week and a half ago said that Durant is not backing down on this. He wants out. Usually teams oblige. Like there's rarely a situation where a superstar makes the trade request, and especially in a case like this where the team says, okay, we'll work on that, and then ultimately decide, no, we're going to keep you. We have the leverage. You signed a 4-year deal. We're going to make you either play or just sit out. I don't see Kevin Durant sitting out, but Kruger made the point that there's no way the Nets are going to try to force him to play. So which means the clock is ticking. It's July 19th right now. Training camps usually start at the beginning of October, maybe late September. You probably want to get this deal done before then. So do you have any early inklings on what do you think is going to happen? Because if it's not the Warriors, I don't know who else will make a deal for him. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with what Kruger said in that typically teams do oblige. When a star, and especially one with the star power of Kevin Durant, asks for a trade, they make it happen.
Yeah.
However, I also think, that being said, that the Nets wouldn't mind if he did end up staying. I read Shams Charania's report as well that said that Kevin's mind hasn't been changed at this
Yeah.
point, but I do think they're holding out hope. Maybe it's totally delusional. I don't know. I'm not in KD's head, but I think the Nets still think maybe, hey, we have a shot to convince him to play. I agree. I don't see Kevin Durant sitting out. But maybe they still believe they have a shot of potentially changing Kevin Durant's mind. And again, maybe that's completely unreasonable or delusional for them to think, but I believe that's still a very real possibility. They think they could potentially retain him in Brooklyn and somehow repair the relationship, whatever led to him asking for the trade, which is something that I'm really curious about because there hasn't been any clear cut. I don't know if you've seen any, but reports out as to why exactly what is it that pushed him to ask for the trade. I've seen a bunch of different,
we don't know.
that's what
We
I'm
don't
saying.
know
I've seen
that.
a bunch of different little maybe nuggets here and there, but we don't know. So I think that's a big looming question mark. Well, what was it that pushed him to ask for the trade? And is there something in the relationship that can be repaired based on whatever disgruntled him enough to ask for it?
Yeah.
They may still be thinking, hey, we still have a shot. And I agree, though, that typically you oblige, and typically they still may be holding out hope, though. I still think that the more days go on, the more likelihood that he stays in Brooklyn because, I don't know, just at some point there's going to have to be, the trigger's going to have to be pulled. And if it doesn't get pulled, they're going to have to figure something out because I agree.
Yeah.
I don't see Kevin Durant sitting out.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, though, like what team at this point is going to package up enough that the Nets are going to be happy with the trade?
Yeah.
Based
Marks is
on
being
what they've been
greedy.
asking for, like the Timberwolves trade, I don't know that answer because it's insane.
It is insane. He's being so greedy. I mean, because again, the only teams that are going to want Durant are those who are in a win now mode. I'm hearing the Miami Heat a lot. I mean, the Heat
Yeah.
clearly want him, and I do think it's mutual. But the Heat have nothing to offer. I mean, all you're
What
gonna
exactly?
the best you
What
can.
would they offer?
Yeah, and by the way, for people who think that Ben Simmons is an obstacle to this because of the fact that two teams cannot have, or I'm sorry, one team cannot have two players on those max rookie extensions. Don't worry, that's not a huge obstacle. The Nets can trade Ben Simmons, and that's obviously something they're probably working on behind the scenes as well. Because if you're going to get Bam Adebayo back, you have to trade Simmons. If you're going to get Andrew Wiggins, you have to trade Simmons. So clearly, that's part of this that the Nets are probably working on behind the scenes. My theory on why Durant wants to get out, we'll probably never hear it. We still haven't heard from him why he wanted to leave the Warriors. It's been 3+ years now. Still haven't gotten that answer. So I don't think he's ever going to reveal these kind of things. My theory is that he wasn't happy with the fact that Kyrie was not given an extension because the Nets basically insulted Kyrie. Probably Durant felt
the
insulted
treatment
as
of
well.
Kyrie has to be a factor for sure.
Absolutely. And then the other thing, which I really wonder, and I do think there's some truth to this, is that Durant probably looked at the roster and he probably got to know Ben Simmons a little bit, and he thought to himself, "What the hell is this? I want out." Because that team is not winning a championship, plain and simple. They are not going to win a title. And if KD's still worried about his legacy, you do not stay in Brooklyn. Now, you don't go to Phoenix either. Because if Phoenix is going to land him, they have to give up Devin Booker. If Miami's going to land him, they're going to have to give up Bam Adebayo. So is it Miami Heat team that has Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant, and that's pretty much it? Going to win a world championship? No. The only places he's going to realistically go where he can actually add to his legacy is the Warriors. And again, that's where I think ultimately, I mean, look, if the Warriors can just wait this out and somehow land Kevin Durant for, let's say, like Wiggins and Poole, and that's it, you've scored. Like, congratulations. Like, would you do that? Okay, answer this after we get back. But I'm curious to know, Kylan, would you make a trade for Durant if it was just Wiggins and Jordan Poole? We'll find that out and so much more. First, got to give some love to Built and the Built Bar Company more specifically, because Built Bars are yummy. Kylan, I owe you Built Bars. I also owe you a Warriors shirt from Rick Barry and I's Apparel Company. We have a few shirts, by the way. If you just go to the top of my Twitter account at DogSurfRoadshow, it's either the pinned tweet or click on the link up there and you'll find the apparel. We have a bunch of shirts and hoodies that we sell now. So I'll get that to you as well, but I also owe you some Built Bars. They're yummy. They're delicious. I'm officially on a diet right now. I want to lose about 10, 15 pounds. And I feel like Built Bars are one of the keys to this because they're yummy. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in a massive array of flavors to choose from. I'm all about the granola. I love the granola bars. They're not quite as chewy as the other flavors, and they're packed with protein. On average, 17 grams of protein, and it's not just regular protein; it's collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order at built.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Well, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from odds makers at BetOnline. Available now on Locked On NFL, wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. So would you make that trade? Wiggins and the pool party, and that's it. Nothing more for Kevin Durant. In the process, you're trading 2 max contracts for 1. Your thoughts?
I would make that trade. If you're still keeping those 3 members of the Warriors young core, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman, I think it's more worth it. Not to undermine anything that Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole have done, but Lacob already said he's not going to pay them both. So you're going to lose one of them anyway. And then you tack on a second, both of them, and get Kevin Durant in return, a bona fide all-star, one of the best players in the game. I mean, I feel like you'd be stupid not to make that trade. I think for me, a lot of the holdup comes in the fact that reports out there are that the Nets would want a lot more. But I think if it was just those 2, yeah, I could see that being doable. I think you're muted, possibly.
I was muted. Thank you.
I was hoping it wasn't my computer, but yeah, you're muted.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think ultimately that's what the Warriors are doing. They're just sitting back and they're looking at the Nets and they're going, do better, and they're not going to find better. And the only problem is though, it's just holding the entire NBA up right now, while the Nets figure out what they want to do with that. And that's not. And by the way, I don't know if it's worth touching on Donovan Mitchell. He's also out there. There's a lot of trade rumors about that. So maybe that's holding up things as well in terms of just offseason moves, because there's a lot of free agents still available. The Warriors are going to have to add a free agent or 2, unless they just cherry pick off their G League team to round out the roster. So that's what's going on there. So, you tweeted something interesting, shifting gears here for a second.
Yeah.
You tweeted, and again, you can follow Kylen Mills at Kylen Mills. You post phenomenal content, especially during the NBA season, because you're at the Warriors practice facility. Yeah. You're posting great content of the players just practicing at their facilities. Sorry to be so redundant there. You tweeted this thing where it was a video of ESPN's First Take. It was Mike the Mad Dog Russo debating with Draymond Green's nickname for Kendrick Perkins, the Big Ogre. They were going at it over where Stephen Curry ranks all time. Take it away. Can you describe what the argument was and what each person said?
I just caught a little bit of it, honestly, and then I ran to Twitter to see if they put it on Twitter, and they had. So they got hung up over, do you take Steph Curry versus Kobe all time? And I think after this latest championship, there's no doubt that Curry has jumped several people in the NBA greats all-time list. But the debate that was going on was, who do you take? Steph Curry? Do you take Kobe? The main argument for taking Kobe was his defensive prowess. And Curry has widely been regarded across his career as being an average defender at best. So that's not necessarily my personal opinion. I think his defense has come a long way, and especially the last couple of seasons. This season, he got called a 2-way player once or twice, and he had a good laugh about it. But I think that there could be a good case for his defense being vastly improved in the latter part of his career. But in the big picture, he's been widely regarded as an average defender, never been on any all-NBA defensive team or anything like that, versus Kobe, who I believe is a 12-time all-defensive player. And so I think that's where a lot of the argument went for Kobe. As far as Curry, the guy's a bucket, the way he revolutionized the game, the way that he really just changed the pace of the game, the way the three-pointer is utilized in the NBA. He was the first player really of his size to do what he's done and put up the numbers that he's put up. So that was kind of the back and forth. Hold on, let's get your opinion first before I get into.
All right, yeah, fair. I watched a segment as well, and again, Mike the Mad Dog, he oftentimes goes into history, deep into history. Like he doesn't want players from the 60s, 70s, 80s forgotten, and rightfully so. I don't disagree with that necessarily. But he was kind of appalled at Perkins' take, which is that Stephen Curry has surpassed Kobe Bryant. I don't agree with that. I'm not there yet. Stephen Curry has made my top 10. Do you have your top 10? Do you have your top 10 all-time list in your head memorized by any chance?
I was going to say memorized. I have a top 10 list. I guess I'm kind of at the point where I'm getting hung up at 8, 9, 10, 11. And I really would have to put it down on paper because I've got Tim Duncan hanging around there. I've got Steph Curry right in that 9, 10, 11 range.
Yes.
So that's where I really would have to sit down and look and decide where I feel the back end of that top 10 is. But do you want me to just rail off who I can think of?
Well, if you want, I'll rail off mine real quick because I do have mine memorized, and then you can tell me what you think, and then add your twist to it, or not twist, just your perspective. So Jordan to me is just easily number one. I don't even think there's a debate about that. It still drives me insane when people actually think LeBron is in the same discussion. I do not agree with that at all. And I heard to me the best argument for the difference between those two players is when you take away the difference in scoring titles, take away the difference in MVPs, finals MVPs, defensive player of the year awards, which Jordan did win once. Just the difference between those two players is a Hall of Fame career, right? We're talking about 8 or 9 scoring titles. We're talking about 1 or 2 MVPs. We're talking about 2 more finals MVPs. Again, the defensive player of the year award. Just that alone is an MVP, a Hall of Fame player by itself, separating those two. So I just don't see how you can make that comparison. My number 2 always flip-flops. Number 2 and 3 always flip-flop between Kareem and Magic. I always have a hard time deciding which one has more value. Bill Russell is up in there. Will Chamberlain is up in there. Tim Duncan is up in there. LeBron James is up in there. And then Kobe Bryant is up in there. And then you have, to me, Stephen Curry and Larry Bird rounding out my top 10. So one more time, Jordan, Magic, Kareem, LeBron, Wilt. Who am I forgetting now? I just forgot who my number 6 is. Well, there's Kobe, Tim Duncan, Stephen Curry, Larry Bird. Your thoughts?
So mine are pretty much on the same page. One player that I've got at the back end of my top 10 and that I have previously, but now I'm kind of thinking about where he'd fit in is what about Shaquille O'Neal?
I thought in my list, Steph bumped him out. So Shaquille is my number 11.
That's who you have Steph bumping out. You think Steph has bumped out Shaquille O'Neal?
Correct. What do you think about that?
Okay. I'm trying to think about where, I don't disagree. First of all, we're on the same page about the MJ thing. I just hands down think Michael Jordan is number 1 best player of all
easily,
time.
Right?
I think LeBron is, extremely talented, and he's the best player we've seen in this, second wave, this next generation of NBA stars. So I've got MJ, LeBron, I think Kareem, number 3 for sure. I do Magic after Kareem. I think Kareem comes first. 5, I think maybe Bill Russell.
Good call. I forgot to mention his name. Thank you. Yes, that was who I was forgetting.
Bill Russell.
Yes.
For obvious reasons, is it 11 NBA titles, I think, for Bill Russell?
In 13 years, correct.
11 and 13 years. Okay, 11 and 13 years. He was all NBA those 11 years. I think he was 12 All-Stars. He won multiple MVPs. So to me, he's number 5. I'm going to go with Wilt at number 6. And
same. That's what I have too.
Get a little. So I would say maybe I actually like Larry Bird at 7 and I like Kobe at 7.
Okay, that's where I have him too.
I like Kobe at 7. I like Larry Bird at 8, maybe Tim Duncan. And so this is where I'm kind of on the fence. Tim Duncan 9, Steph Curry 10, maybe Shaq 11.
Okay, that's how I have mine. Yeah, I mean,
is that the same?
I've Bird just a little further down just because I put so much weight on championships won, especially when you're the alpha of the team for leading teams to championships. And just Steph having that fourth one just really put him over Bird. But Bird is so underrated in these rankings. I'm with you.
I think so.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, so that's a debate, and Perkins' whole perspective or his whole argument is that Steph revolutionized the game with his shooting. Yeah, rightfully so, but it's just I don't think he's at Kobe's level yet because like you said, the defense, the longevity of their careers, one extra title. But again, Steph can still surpass him. That's the crazy part, right? Like if they win a fifth title. Yeah, I think Steph passes Kobe. I do.
So definitely, I think the longer Steph's reign continues and the more titles he wins, I mean, I don't know if one more would be enough for me. I guess it would kind of depend on what he did in that championship run. Because I mean, the longevity of Kobe, especially in that early 2000s NBA era, is actually really incredible. I mean, 18-time All-Star.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. I mean, Curry is still not there and not touching that. But that's ridiculous. Now is in a much more physical game. One thing I do want to point out about when you look at Kobe's stats up next to Steph Curry's stats is that Kobe and Curry, at least I saw in some of their just like general numbers and their playoff numbers, like Curry was maybe like 27 points per game, while Kobe was like 25.5 points per game in all-time playoff appearances, something like that. But you also have to factor in that back when Kobe was playing, teams weren't scoring the way they're scoring in today's NBA. I actually looked up the stat because I was curious. And like in 2021, 2022, teams were averaging 110, 111. It was over 110 points per game versus like 2001, 2002, teams were averaging 94 points a game, 95 points a game. And the thing is, like, Curry was the one who really like facilitated that revolution, which is awesome. But I also feel like at the same time, like you have to put a little bit more weight in the points and the numbers that Kobe was putting up because it was such a different game and that teams weren't scoring the way they're scoring now, if that makes sense.
It does. 100% makes sense. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I'd always wonder if like how different all these arguments would be if the 3-point shot became emphasized in the 80s versus, as late as it was, because Larry Bird would be lighting it up. Michael Jordan, although Jordan actually did say that his game wouldn't have changed much. He's been asked about that. But I think Larry Bird would have just been going crazy. I do think Jordan still be putting up more threes, that's scoring even more. But Perkins said something else that was really wild to me. I'm wondering what your opinion is on this. He thinks Stephen Curry can stay at the peak of his powers for 10 more years, meaning he turns 35 on March 14th, 2023, meaning at 45 years, similar to Tom Brady, he could still be at the peak of his powers. I do not agree with that notion. What do you think about that?
I disagree with that completely, just based on what I saw up close and personal this season. I mean, Curry definitely has dealt with some injuries, and you can see that the game is taking more of a toll on his body, as you would expect for someone who's turning 35. Another thing about Steph Curry is yes, there could definitely be some longevity because of the way that he plays the game. But on the flip side, he logs so many miles in a game, which I think people forget. Like he is one of the most prolific players to move off the ball, and he's covering so much ground on the court. Like to me, that's got to catch up to you at some point. Like I don't see how he could be running around the way he is now at 45. Like if he was doing that, like, wow, he is a physical freaking specimen, which he already is because of what he can do. But I'm just saying, I feel like that's also a factor. And yes, like I get so sick of the arguments from like players from like the 90s, early 2000s that are like players in today's NBA could never play, when we played, whatever, that's fine. And, Curry doesn't play that same physical style game that we saw back in the day. But he also covers so much more ground. And I feel like that's got to take a toll on your body. Now I want to look up a stat because I remember during the playoffs, like in the season, there are like have been some ridiculous stats about like how many miles and steps Steph Curry covers in a game. And to me, that also does have to catch up with you at some point. Like,
You're absolutely
I don't
right.
know. And something Steve Kerr said in the post game was just like next season and in seasons moving forward, like we're going to be holding back on Steph Curry's minutes in places that we can, which is we saw them do a little bit this season where the young players got some run. And that's because like he does need to preserve his body. And at this point, the game is going to start taking a toll. And yes, players are lasting longer and they do such a better job of taking care of their bodies. And we know so much more than we did 20 years ago, as far as recovery and different things that players can do to take care of themselves mentally, physically. But at the same time, like you still can't evade life. Like I don't know. And like Tom Brady is ridiculous, but I don't know.
And I feel like Tom Brady's been lucky just because the rules of the game changed so much in the NFL where the quarterback is protected now. He's not getting hit like he used to. So, at 44, 45, all you have to do is stand back there and just, throw a football. I mean, look, he's the greatest ever, which kills me saying that because I'm a Joe Montana guy through and through, but he's the GOAT. But I don't think Stephen Curry can last in the same regard. 45 is old, man. I mean, bravo to Tom Brady for making us old guys look good. He's older than me, and I always love throwing that out there because it makes me sound young, maybe not. Here's what I want to end the show on this note, Kylan. You only have you one more time this week, and then next week you're on your honeymoon. Congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Where are you going, by the way? Where's the trip?
So going to Hawaii, Maui and Kauai, super excited. And just, for a little bit of context, my husband and I both work in sports. We postponed it because the week after our wedding was like, was it just the Western Conference semifinals or the first round? I can't remember, but it was early in the playoffs and we literally didn't go. We postponed it so we could cover the NBA playoffs and this Warriors championship run. So I want some points for dedication here, Cy. But plus we wanted to be able to relax. I'm like, dude, like I'm going to be on my phone. I'm going to be watching it. It's like I'm dedicated to the craft, man. And like I said, my husband works in sports. He's the same way. I'm like, I want us to be able to like unplug, turn off and be like totally carefree while this is going on and not like wondering about the Warrior score and, like what the latest is in the NBA postseason. So we are finally long overdue. We got married back in April, but we are going to Hawaii next week.
Have fun. I love Hawaii. I haven't done Kauai, but Maui is a treat. You're just gonna. Have you been there before?
So I went once as a kid, but not the same experience. I was like 11 or 12, and he's never been. So this is going to be really like a first experience for both of us, kind of. So I'm really excited.
Have fun. There's a few places in the world that consider to have the best sunsets ever. San Sebastian, Spain is one of them. One of my favorite surf villages, about an hour away from Puerto Vallarta in Mexico is one of them. And then Hawaii, man, they just nail sunsets. They got that dialed. Last topic, and we're done. Thank you so much for sticking with me, Kylan. A year from now, let's say the Warriors just stand pat, and there's no Kevin Durant trade. They maybe add like I don't even know what veteran we could throw out there. Let's say Rodney Hood. I would love if they added Boogie Cousins.
We're on the commercial. We're both on the Melo train, right?
Well, yeah, but I don't know if the Warriors will do it. I don't know. I would love that. Okay, let's say for the sake of argument.
And I know he's old. Okay, everybody, get off my back. Whatever.
Here's what I'll tell people.
They gotta add some veterans though. Like they
have to. They have to.
You're gonna have to. And like we still don't know if Iguodala's even coming back, and that would potentially leave another spot.
That's true. And the thing with Melo that I'll throw to people to remind them is this is someone whose offensive repertoire is second to none. He's going to be a Hall of Famer because of his offensive skill set. Could you imagine Carmelo Anthony on the court while Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole are out there? I mean, he's going to have open looks all day, every day. He's never experienced any form of spacing. What's up?
I said he can still shoot.
Yes, exactly. So he's going to have open looks all over the place. So he's 6'8", 250. So he's going to get your reboundings. He can play the inside game. I would not mind him at all. But let's say for the sake of argument, they decide not to do anything.
I led us on a tangent. My bad.
It's okay. No, it's fine. So they add Carmelo, they add Boogie. Okay, let's say those are the two free agents they add. A year from now, the Warriors are going to be faced with a situation where Andrew Wiggins is an unrestricted free agent, and he's going to want a max deal. I don't know if anyone's going to offer that to him, but that's what he wants. Jordan Poole wants a max deal. Someone probably will offer him that as a restricted free agent. And then you're going to be left with a choice. Let's say Wiggins gives the Warriors a take it or leave it situation where either I get a max or I'm out. Someone else will give it to me. You're going to lose one of those two players for nothing. Can you stomach that? I mean, because what I'm looking at realistically is They probably will match any offer sheet for Poole. They'll probably then let go of Wiggins, and they're probably going to foresee Kuminga and or Moody kind of taking his role. Again, can you stomach that? Are you cool with that? Because that's the reality of the situation. If they don't make a Kevin Durant trade, is you're looking at a future where there's a strong possibility a year from now, Wiggins will not be a part of this team. I'm guessing they're going to probably take Wiggins over Poole. I'm sorry, they're going to take Poole over Wiggins.
I think
probably.
Poole over Wiggins, yeah.
Yeah. So are you cool with that? Is that an idea that you're comfortable with, given that's the price you pay if you don't pursue KD?
That's a conundrum. I think the Warriors keep Poole when it comes down to the two of them for sure.
Agreed.
I don't know, Cy. I'm thinking, it would be great to get something back in return for Wiggins, but it's just, you have to look at the big picture and at what cost, is that worth throwing in, some more of the young players to get KD, because then you do offload Wiggins and at least get something in return for him versus if you were to let him walk. I don't know. It's above my pay grade. I'm just going to let the Warriors front office.
No, it's not. You're this is actually right in your pay. You're like, this is exactly in your wheelhouse.
No. This is what they get paid the big bucks to do in the Warriors front office, is analyze all of this crap. Because
look, you're going to join me Friday. You're going to join me Friday. You have 3 days to think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll come back to this on Friday.
And Dub Nation, this is what you need to think about. Yeah. This is the conundrum here. This is what Joe Lacob is thinking, and it's why I'm not ruling out the KD trade, because, again, he's publicly stated he's not going to give Wiggins and Poole the max. He hasn't used those words, but you can't be that direct as an owner of a team either. It's very obvious that's the direction. Now, look, the salary cap can change next year. They're going to revisit the collective bargaining agreement. True. Maybe they change the rules, and then suddenly the Warriors are not being taxed this heavy for their draft picks, which they shouldn't be in the first place, and maybe they can't afford it. And maybe that's where the waiting game comes in and it pays off. But that's I think a huge reason why this Kevin Durant trade is being looked at by the Warriors, because they will save money. As weird as it sounds, they're saving a lot of money if they bring in Kevin Durant versus paying both Wiggins and Poole max extensions next year. So that's what's going on.
In a perfect world, they extend both of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Or maybe, like you said, something with a salary cap situation or the luxury tax situation changes. That's my perfect world. But as far as if he is going to leave the organization, he does do that, or the Warriors do offload Wiggins, give me 3 days.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. I like a challenge.
I love it. There you go. We'll bring this back up in 3 days. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. Alan Stiles is going to join the program tomorrow. Did you work with him, by the way, at KRON?
No. He's come on and helped us out with some of our baseball shows, though. Like, we've had him on as a guest, which is awesome. Okay. He was super great, super nice, and now works at the game. And actually, my husband Charlie works with Alan quite a bit and enjoys it. So Alan is a good friend of the show at KRON and all that. But yeah, we had him on to do some baseball segments, and he is a wealth of knowledge, former college baseball player, and now doing it all at 95.7 The Game.
Yes, he is. And he's gonna join me tomorrow, just because they invited me on so much, and I just wanted to repay the favor. So Alan Stiles will join me tomorrow. Thursday will be a crossover show with the host of Locked On Bucks, for 2 reasons. One is our 2 teams are the last 2 world champions. And more importantly, I want to learn about Donte DiVincenzo. And he played for the Bucks for a large number of years. And Kane Pittman, who's the host of Locked On Bucks, is going to come on to break down what the Warriors can expect with their new acquisition, Donte DiVincenzo. So we'll break that down. And then Kylan, you're coming back with me on Friday, and that'll wrap up the week. So is that it? Are we done? We good?
We're good.
We cover everything? All right. You have a great day. Anything exciting planned?
No, nothing exciting planned. I played some soccer last night. I had not played in a couple weeks, and I'm sore today, so I'm just taking it easy.
That's a good sore. It's a good sore.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good store, but I'm taking it easy.
There you go. Beautiful. And everyone else, take it easy out there. Thank you so much. Oh, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow and this program on Twitter
One
at
thing I
Locked
want to
On
mention
Cavs.
is
Yes.
tomorrow I am talking to USF product Jamari Bouye, which I'm really excited about. Not Warriors related, but still Bay Area related. So
Yeah.
I want to mention, giving him some love because it's really cool to see a USF product possibly making it in the NBA. He's going to be at Heat training camp. So just kind of cool young player to keep an eye on.
I love it. Yeah, I've seen your coverage of him on Twitter. And again, he was outstanding at USF, almost revitalized a program that for like 40, 50 years has just been in the doldrums, with the exception of a few blips here and there. But good stuff. All right. And people can catch. So you're going to be interviewing him for KRON. Is that correct?
Yep. I'll be tweeting out some stuff, and then it actually airs in our Sunday show called Sports Night Live at 10:30 on KRON 4.
Love it. There you go. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kylan. And we'll be back at this soon. Take care. Later.